What's making you feel poorer and poorer in life isn't your small income, nor your lack of hard work. It is actually those seemingly harmless habits quietly hiding destructive factors within your daily life. Hi everyone. Welcome back to BION, the channel that shares knowledge about personal development through great books. Today I'd like to introduce a very simple yet incredibly useful book on financial management titled The Latte Factor by David Bach and John David Mann. Once you identify the latte factors silently seeping into your daily routine, you'll begin to understand why you're not getting richer, why you can't seem to save more money for yourself, and how to overcome the anxiety of spending and the fear of scarcity within you. The author, David Bach, has appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show and is a highly influential financial expert in the U.S. Many readers have shared that his advice completely changed their lives. What makes this book interesting is that it's written as a story. It follows Zoe, a young woman who goes to work every day with a latte in her hand. Despite earning a decent income, around $5,000 to $6,000 a month, she still constantly feels short on money and even struggles with credit card debt. The methods woven into this story make the lessons relatable and realistic, helping readers reflect on their own lives. I hope this book inspires you, because it is not just about money management. It is about values and habits that can change your lifestyle and help you conquer your fear of not having enough. As Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Building the right financial habits is the key that opens the door to your own freedom. Now, let's dive into today's story. Zoe worked as an editor at a publishing house in New York. One day, while buying her usual latte, she was captivated by a painting of a beautiful island. She really wanted to buy it, but when she heard the price, $1,200, the words immediately popped into her mind. "I can't afford it." That phrase had come up countless times in her life. No money to travel, no money for courses, not enough to buy the things she wanted. Returning to the office feeling discouraged about her finances, her editor-in-chief noticed and suggested she talk to Henry, the building Issaquah barista. Zoe was puzzled. What could a barista possibly teach her about money? But that meeting turned out to be the start of something that would completely change her life. Driven by curiosity, Zoe went to meet Henry, though she was filled with confusion. Around that time, a friend had introduced her to a new job with a higher salary, yet she really loved her current work. The only problem was the pay. Standing at a crossroads, Zoe didn't know whether to stick with the job she loved and find extra work on the side, or to switch to the better-paying one. This is a dilemma many young people face today, constantly asking themselves, what job should I really do? Henry told Zoe to stop worrying about money. The solution isn't to make more of it. It is to develop financial freedom, he continued. If you can do just 3 things, you'll achieve financial freedom. Zoe laughed, thinking, for me, those 3 things must be winning the lottery, becoming famous overnight, or inheriting a fortune from some distant relative. Do you think like Zoe too? But achieving financial freedom isn't as far-fetched as it seems. The first step Henry advised her to take was to learn to put herself first, to invest in herself. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But is that really true? Many people go through hardship and emerge not stronger, but more broken, more cynical, and more fearful than before. So why do some people seem to grow from adversity, while others are crushed by it? The secret isn't the suffering itself, but how we respond to it. This leads us to the first step on the path to resilience. Understanding the nature of our pain. Often, when faced with a setback, we tell ourselves a story. We might say, I failed because I'm not smart enough, or this always happens to me. I'm just unlucky. These narratives, born from our immediate feelings of hurt and disappointment, quickly become our reality. We replay them in our minds until they solidify into core beliefs about ourselves and the world. But as the Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The pain from an event might be real, but the suffering that follows is often a product of the story we choose to tell. Therefore, the stories we tell ourselves don't just describe our reality. They actively create it. They are the invisible architects of our future. Imagine two people, Alex and Ben, who both get laid off from their jobs. Alex immediately starts thinking, this is a catastrophe. I'll never find another job as good as this one. My career is over. This story sends him into a spiral of anxiety and inaction. He spends his days endlessly scrolling through job sites, feeling more hopeless with each passing hour. The narrative of failure paralyzes him, making his fear a self-fulfilling prophecy. Ben, on the other hand, allows himself to feel the initial shock and disappointment, but then consciously chooses a different story. He tells himself, this is a difficult situation, but it's also an opportunity. Maybe this is the push I needed to explore a career I'm truly passionate about. This narrative doesn't deny the pain of the layoff, but it reframes it as a catalyst for growth. Instead of despair, he feels a sense of purpose. He starts networking, taking online courses to learn new skills, and exploring different industries. His story empowers him to take constructive action. That is the power of a chosen narrative. Yet, many people will argue, but my feelings are real. I can't just pretend I'm not hurting. And they're right. The key isn't to ignore your pain or engage in toxic positivity. It's about acknowledging the pain without letting the story it creates define you. It's about separating the event from the interpretation. As psychologist Viktor Frankl wrote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. What you lack isn't resilience, it's the awareness of that space. Once you recognize the victim narratives in your life and begin to consciously reframe them, you'll find it much easier to move forward. And from that small mental shift comes a tremendous power that can reshape your entire experience of life. So, what exactly is a victim narrative? It's the story that casts you as the helpless subject of unfortunate circumstances. It's the voice in your head that says you have no control, that the world is against you, and that your situation is permanent and unchangeable. In reality, these narratives are often defense mechanisms. They protect our ego from the discomfort of responsibility and the fear of failure. It's easier to blame external factors than to look inward and ask, what can I do differently? The victim narrative isn't just about major life crises. It symbolizes all the small, seemingly harmless ways we give away our power. For some, it's blaming a bad grade on a hard professor. For others, it's complaining about traffic instead of leaving earlier, attributing social awkwardness to being an introvert as if it's an unchangeable trait, or staying in an unfulfilling job because the economy is bad. It could be blaming your bad mood on the weather, your lack of fitness on a slow metabolism, or your messy house on a lack of time while spending hours on your phone. The common thread in all these victim narratives is that you're retrading your personal agency for the temporary comfort of not being at fault. But over time, they silently erode your confidence and your ability to effect change in your own life. That's why it's crucial to look at your life and identify which victim narratives are holding you back. Once you're aware of them, you must also learn how to build a new, more empowering story. But how do you do that when the old one feels so true? Here's a common scenario. Person A says, just think positive. Person B replies, I tried that. It doesn't work. My problems are real. It's true some people try to force positive thoughts, but they still feel stuck. The reason is simple. They haven't learned how to process the underlying emotions. You can't just slap a positive sticker on a deep wound. What do you usually do when you feel overwhelmed by a negative emotion? Many people try to suppress it, ignore it, or distract themselves. They might binge watch a series, scroll through social media, or work excessively, hoping the feeling will just go away. But as psychologists have found, emotional suppression is exhausting. Your joy in life diminishes, and the unprocessed emotion will likely resurface later, often stronger than before. Experts advise that the best way forward is not to fight your feelings, but to process them with mindful self-compassion. And this leads us to the second step toward building true resilience: practicing emotional regulation. After her conversation with Henry, Zoe went home, still mulling over the idea of saving. Just then, her friend Jeffrey called, inviting her out for some pizza. Jeffrey was a startup entrepreneur, a classic risk-taker, who firmly believed that one big success was all it took to change your life. When he heard about Zoe's chat with Henry, he couldn't help but laugh sarcastically. "You're so naive," he said. "First of all, a 10% interest rate. That's impossible. No one can maintain that kind of compound growth forever at S. Just not realistic in today's market," he continued. "Second, you're not even considering inflation. If you just save like that, inflation will eat all your money away. You'll be working for others, basically saving for the government. The more you save, the more they benefit from your hard work." He took another bite of pizza before delivering his final blow. And third, you're taking financial advice from a barista. If he's so smart about money, why is he still making coffee every day? Zoe was left completely confused. Was saving really a foolish idea? If her savings couldn't even beat inflation, what was the point of it all? One day, while visiting Henry's coffee shop again, a friend of his named Baron stopped by their table. Sensing Zoe's confusion, Baron shared a saying they have back in Texas: "Big hat, no cattle." He explained that it describes someone who looks grand and important on the outside but has nothing substantial to back it up. Baron admitted that he used to be that guy, flashy, always bragging about big investment deals. But in reality, he was on the brink of bankruptcy. He smoked, drank, stayed up late, and was constantly angry and stressed. His health was collapsing under the pressure. Everything changed when he met Henry. "Luckily, I met this man," Baron said, patting Henry's shoulder. Henry had advised him to quit smoking and drinking, which would save him at least $1 a day. More importantly, Henry warned him about the trap of making only minimum payments on his credit cards. When you pay just the minimum balance, the bank won't chase you for the debt, but the unpaid portion gets hit with colossal interest rates. For example, if you owe $20,000 on a credit card and only ever pay the minimum, it could take you over 18 years to pay it off, and the total interest you'd pay would be enormous. After following Henry's advice, Baron and his wife completely changed their lifestyle. They started buying second-hand goods, paid for everything with cash, and meticulously avoided accumulating new debt. They learned that use doesn't mean bad. It just means more affordable. They also quit smoking and drinking, saving that $1 every single day. Gradually, through the power of compound interest, their small savings began to grow, helping them recover not just financially, but physically as well. From Baron's story, Zoe learned a profound lesson. Many things in life compound, not just money. Debt, for instance, compounds in a vicious, negative cycle. Even if you don't borrow from loan sharks, the more you owe on credit cards or personal loans, the more interest piles up, digging you into a deeper hole. Conversely, saving and investing create a positive compounding cycle, especially when you commit to it for the long term. If you just let your cash sit idle in a bank account, inflation will steadily erode its value. But with long-term investments in assets like mutual funds, stocks, or even gold, compound interest can truly work its magic and grow your wealth. Beyond the financial gains, Zoe realized that saving and investing also compound your health and self-discipline. As you become more conscious of your spending, you begin to cut out your latte factors, those small, frequent expenses that add up over time. Maybe you start cooking your own meals instead of eating out every day, choosing healthier, home-prepped food. You might drink fewer sugary beverages or expensive coffees from fancy cafes. Instead of frequenting those cafes, you could invest in a good coffee machine for your home, saving a significant amount in the long run. You start carrying your own water bottle instead of buying bottled water. You might even cancel paid streaming or gaming subscriptions you barely use and replace that time with reading a book or learning a new skill. As these habits take hold, you become physically healthier, mentally sharper, and more productive. That is the ultimate compound interest of health. Gathering her thoughts, Zoe turned to Henry. My friend said there's no such thing as a 10% return anymore, she said, echoing Jeffrey's skepticism. Henry simply smiled. Then let's calculate it at 5%. Even that works, he replied calmly. The 10% figure is based on historical data. Over the past several decades, the S&P 500 index has averaged an annual return of more than 10%. But even if you assume a more conservative 5% or even 4% a return, compound interest still works wonders over time. He broke it down for her. For example, if you invest just 50,000 VND per day for 40 years, at a 5% interest rate, you'll end up with 2.2 billion VND. If you manage to invest 100,000 VND daily under the same conditions, you'll have about 4.5 billion VND after 40 years. He explained that most people see stocks only as a short-term gamble, rushing to sell after a 20% or 40% gain. This behavior shows they don't truly understand the real value of ownership. Owning a stock means becoming a part owner of a business, growing alongside it through its successes and challenges. Henry then shared a personal story. He grew up poor, but his grandmother started a powerful tradition for him, saving just $1 every single week. When he was 8 years old, instead of buying him a McDonald's hamburger, she used that money to buy him a share of McDonald's stock. From that day on, he grew up with the company, and those few shares eventually became a lifeline that helped save his family from poverty. Now, at over 70 years old, Henry has long achieved financial freedom. He's been running his cozy coffee shop for 36 years. Not because he has to, but because he loves it. He revealed how he managed to survive when Starbucks expanded aggressively, causing most small coffee shops in the area to shut down. He succeeded for 2 key reasons. First, he owned the building his cafe was in. In a twist of fate, Starbucks ended up becoming one of his tenants, renting a space from him down the street. Second, instead of protesting against Starbucks like his competitors, he bought their stock. That way, he created a win-win situation for himself. If his cafe lost business to Starbucks, his shares in the coffee giant would still profit. If his cafe continued to thrive, even better. This was his balanced leverage strategy, keeping one side of his life safe and stable while investing in a high-risk, high-reward side. No matter what happened, he couldn't lose big. Most importantly, this strategy allowed him to continue doing what he loved every day, making coffee for his community. At this point, Zoe was on the edge of her seat, eagerly waiting to hear Henry's third step, the final secret to achieving true financial freedom. Step 3. To achieve financial freedom, you must start living like a wealthy person right now. Joy was taken aback. But I'm not rich, she protested. How can I possibly live like a rich person? Henry smiled knowingly. Wealth, first and foremost, is a state of mind. You must adopt the demeanor of a wealthy person. Calm, confident, and in control. Live as if the money in your account is steadily growing, and know with certainty that you can spend peacefully within your means. He brought up a book he had recommended to her before. The Nature of Poverty by the Nobel Prize-winning economist Piaget. This book, he explained, delves into why the poor often get poorer, and the core reason lies in how they cope with pressure. He explained that people under financial strain often spend more on things that offer a quick escape, like cable TV subscriptions or cheap, unnecessary shopping sprees. These purchases serve as a temporary balm, a way to soothe the stress of their financial situation and life's hardships. However, the pleasure they bring is fleeting. It fades quickly and does nothing to expand their horizons or build any lasting value. In contrast, truly wealthy individuals don't run from pressure. They learn to transform it. They master their desires and liberate themselves from the dependency on short-term gratification. Instead, they prioritize saving and investing. Investing in knowledge, new experiences, their health, and assets that generate more income. It is this profound sense of abundance, reflected in both their mindset and their lifestyle, that allows them to remain composed through challenges and grow increasingly free, both financially and spiritually. When we start living like a wealthy person today, not through extravagant spending or outward displays of opulence, but through an internal mindset of abundance and disciplined saving, true wealth begins to take root within us. Henry affirmed to Joy with confidence, "If you create a solid plan and consistently follow these 3 steps, you can absolutely achieve financial freedom." In the end, Joy made a choice. She decided to continue with the work she genuinely loved, rather than chasing a high-paying job that felt meaningless. She immediately set up 2 automatic transfers, one for her retirement fund and another for her dream fund. She completely reorganized how she managed her credit cards, making a strict rule to never fall into the trap of making only the minimum repayment. Gradually, the financial leaks that had been draining her resources began to disappear. Within just 3 years, Joy had rewarded herself with 3 international trips. By the time she turned 30, she felt like the richest person in the world. Although she wasn't a millionaire in terms of net worth, she had seized control of her life and knew, with unwavering certainty, that she was on the right path. Her retirement account continued to grow steadily, and her travels were funded entirely from her dream fund, without incurring any debt. In truth, the core philosophy of this approach is remarkably simple. It can be summed up like this: learn to delay instant gratification, learn to prioritize what truly matters to you, and start living like a wealthy person right now. Because being rich isn't just about having a large sum of money. It is about having the freedom to choose your own path and living a life that remains unshaken by external pressures. When you learn to let go of trivial, fleeting pleasures, commit to consistent saving, and invest with a long-term perspective, you are already becoming truly wealthy with each passing day. Rise above the pervasive fear of scarcity. Escape the endless cycle of chasing fleeting gratification. That is a mindset worth embracing and spreading. Hope fully. By starting with the simplest habit, plugging the leaks that drain your life as resources, you will find yourself growing more prosperous, calm, and free with each new day. Thank you for listening to today's video. If you found this content helpful, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell to catch our latest videos every week. Once again, thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next video.